Another Wednesday evening means another Auburn family night is at hand. This is our weekly show about you, the Auburn family, what you want to talk about that is orange and blue related. It's all about your calls, your comments, your questions. All that's coming up here right now. Well, War Eagle Auburn family, and a special War Eagle, and welcome to those of you that consider yourselves part of the E2C Network family. Thank you so much for joining us, whether you are watching live, whether you're on the replay, however you got here, whenever you got here. We appreciate you being here and being part of our little family within the Auburn family. As is typically the case, we get together every Wednesday night and meet with you, the Auburn family, to talk about what is on your mind. This is a show that you dictate where we go. You dictate the topics, you dictate the questions, all of those things we can jump into that you are focused on. But let's get the show started off on a good note, as we always like to do. As you're coming into the stream on the live portion or the replay, smash that like button. It is a huge help to us. If you're not subscribing or following wherever you are watching, that is a huge, important thing that you can do for us as well. But the biggest thing that I'd love for you to do, you're part of the Auburn family after now. Let us know where you're checking in from in the Auburn family, where city, state, all that good stuff with a War Eagle. However you'd like to announce yourself and your presence into the stream, let us know that you are here. Our phone lines are going to be open for the entirety of our roughly an hour show tonight and are officially open for anybody who now wants to get in line for that. So please do take advantage of that if you want to. It's brought to you by our friends at allthingsauburn.net. Visit them at allthingsauburn.net for a place to stay. Yes, at Auburn when you visit there, but a place to also have a great Auburn experience, not just a place to stay. Check out that call-in link. It's available in the live chat at the very top, pinned up there on YouTube alone. If you're on Facebook or somewhere else watching, you will have to come over to YouTube to access that. So that's how this works. That's how we get into these things here. You dictate the flow of the show. So don't be shy. Let us know what you want to talk about. I see a lot of people already getting geared up, saying War Eagle in the chat. So let me give you a couple of things maybe to think about. I call it setting the table for you. We talk about that a lot when we do our TikTok live streams, but setting the table for you for some things maybe that are of interest to you, the Auburn family. Big news today was that Auburn and UCLA will no longer play in their home and away, or shared home 1 year, 1 away for Auburn game series that would be coming up, not this year, obviously, not the next 2 years, because the next 2 years would be Baylor, but the 2 years after that. So effectively that would make it 27 and 28, if I'm doing my math correctly in my head. That has been mutually decided upon. No more matchup with UCLA. What are you guys' thoughts about that? If you have opinions, that's a big news story out there. We are inching ever closer towards SEC Media Days, which is like a soft opening of college football season. It actually gives us some legitimate things to talk about in the college football space. That will be next week, and Auburn will be at the very end of the week. So saddle up, hold your horses, just get ready. We'll tune into the whole of SEC Media Days week, but obviously we'll all be paying attention to that particular day on SEC Media Days, which will be the 18th for Auburn. That's something else that's been going on. There are a variety of topics that you can talk about, whether it's season tickets nearly being sold out, getting close to doing that. All of those things are on the table for you and more. So don't be shy. Jump into the chat, get active, and smash that like button. We got a lot of fine people, a lot of regulars checking in from across the Auburn space to hang out with us today. Georgia, Florida, Alabama, a lot of fine folks hanging out with us today. Dalton brings up a question centered around what we started off the show talking about. Who do you think we will schedule for that opening, or who do you want to see rather? That's a two-part question. So again, what we're referencing for those just now tuning in is Auburn and UCLA have mutually agreed to cancel their 2-game series that would start in 2027 and then continue into 2028. I would assume UCLA would have gotten the home game first, which has been the pattern the last couple of times with away shared home and away series. That is now canceled. We're not the only casualty of that. This apparently is, while it is a mutual decision, it appears to be UCLA repositioning themselves into much different situation with them going into the ACC. I know, UCLA, University of California at LA, ACC. Make that make sense to me. It doesn't, but here we are. But that's canceled. So who do you think we should schedule for that opening? The bigger question, Dalton, is what else is going to happen? If you were on our TikTok live today when this news broke, literally while we were having discussions there about other things, someone brought up very quickly that this means we're going to a 9-game SEC schedule. My initial reaction then, and I still kind of sit on it now, is this is less to do about the SEC or Auburn and more to do with UCLA, even though it is a mutual parting of ways for the agreement that they had to play the 2-game series. It could be. It absolutely could be part of the equation, and I would be stupid to dismiss it completely. But I don't necessarily think that it's about the 9-game SEC schedule. But with his question, what do you think, or who do you think we should schedule for this opening? What don't we know about this decision to change? Is it going to be a situation where we are changing the amount of conference games? Is there going to be more conference realignment? Is it a safe bet to add someone in there right now? You got to almost like pigeonhole them in there. Most of the other big teams out there have already got their schedules figured out. So what happens at this point? Your guess is as good as mine. I think you would hope and try to find someone very quickly. Maybe you have to find 2 teams, 2 Power 5, whatever Power 4 teams to fill in a spot and maybe convince them both to come to Auburn, because Auburn's really not going to go many places without a agreement to come back. We aren't that type of team, even as low as we've been over the past couple of seasons. We ain't that deep. We ain't that bad. So I would assume right now that everything's on the table, and it would likely be a Power 5, Power 4, whatever you call it, opponent that would fill into that space, or 2 of them into those 2 spaces. Because right now we have a gap coming up. We're finishing Cal. We've got Baylor, which I hope they don't cancel as well, because I've got connections there. That'll be Cal finishing up this year, Baylor the next 2 years, the 2-game blank now that we have, and then Miami. Does that stay on the table? Only time will tell. I get the feeling that we ain't done yet. Let me answer the second part of the question here. Who do you think we should schedule for that? We got a lot of people sharing things in the chat, like Ohio State and Oregon home and away, if they have the availability. Unbeaten Lake wants just carnage and wants UCF to happen for some reason. So WT wants the Santa Cruz Banana Slugs on the schedule. That would be definitely an easy win. But you definitely want to go get a Power 5, a solid opponent for resume building. Is resume building that much of a issue now with the 12-team playoff? And do you get more cred for playing an extra SEC game? There's so much on the table. You can literally make a case of why this happened and what it means for scheduling coming up 1,000 different ways, and you wouldn't be wrong at this moment, because it could mean 1,000 different things. Let me get to who would I like for us to schedule. I mean, in a perfect world where there's no other boundaries, no other obstacles to come through, like what their schedule is, I'd pick Notre Dame today. I'd love to see an Auburn Notre Dame matchup and go there. Part of that is welcoming them into the Jordan Hare confines. I love experiencing that, like we're going to get to do with Oklahoma this year. One of the other things that I want to bring up, and I'm trying to pull it up as we speak, is our friend Clint Richardson of the Auburn Uniform Database. We'll actually be talking about him a little bit later in the stream. He has put together on his website, and you can find it on at ClintAU24 on X, the teams that Auburn has never faced graphic. And you'll find on there a lot of smaller teams. So maybe we plug some of those in to knock them off the list. But if you want to look for some Power 5, Power 4, whichever you choose to say this year, opponents to throw in there, who Auburn has never played, I think would be great. Arizona State, BYU. I'm looking at his graphic right now. Even though Colorado State is not part of a Power 5, I would throw them in there as kind of something at least. Iowa, an Iowa matchup. We've gotten some Iowa people that have come to our different social media platforms and puffed their chests out a little bit so we could make that happen. I don't think Nevada would be a terrible matchup either. Still in Auburn's favor. Pitt, that one's on there. That's as a potential for a bigger opponent. And then UCLA will remain there as of this moment. But if you're looking for on the list of who should Auburn add, they should add somebody that they haven't played yet. And your Power 5 options are a little bit limited. Oklahoma State is there as well. So here's the ones I'll read off for you. Notre Dame, Oklahoma State, and probably Arizona State would be my most interesting matchups. Utah as well, maybe, to throw in there as potential picks for who we haven't played yet into that opening. We shall see. We shall see. Alex says Maryland rematch. You want some more punishment? Clemson. Somebody wants a Clemson matchup there. Dalton with the BYU. Northwestern, Coastal Carolina. Lots of people throwing out some names now for potentially what could go in there. AU at Northwestern. They're in the middle of a refurb or rebuild or complete new stadium right now. So I guess that's what you mean by playing at Wrigley. Listen, there are a lot of options out there on the table for what you could or could not do. But the point remains that we need to find somebody to play in that 2-year slot at this point. I would imagine conversations are and have been well underway. There's a few people that apparently are claiming that they had inside information that this was already agreed to in principle many months ago, which is a possibility, and they've just now announced it because maybe they are close to securing. It's one thing to cancel something because you feel like that's what you're going to do. But you want to do it when you feel like you're in a situation to have the solution to your problem. And the problem for both these teams would be, who do you fill in those slots? It sounds like UCLA's already got it figured out for them. I think they're sliding Cal into one of those slots, maybe two of them, and then the other spaces they're open up, they've gotten something. But Auburn hasn't announced anything yet. So it'll be interesting to see what, if anything, in the next couple of weeks that we get. Would there be an announcement made at SEC Media Days? Maybe. It would be a great stage to do so. I don't know, but that would be a really cool thing if they were able to do that. My guess is we will find out some point before the turn of the new year who Auburn will fill into that slot, probably sooner rather than later. Mr. Madison AUT says USC. He wants some revenge for that 2-game series we had many moons ago. Not many moons, just several moons ago that didn't go our way. And I would argue effectively launched the dynasty of the time, the USC Trojans. So that's definitely something that you can think about as well. College games have been played at Wrigley. I went to Illinois versus Northwestern at Wrigley back in 2010. ESPN Game Day was there. That might be cool. I guess the novelty factor for that is worn off, and it doesn't really sell me because we've played Northwestern so much. That's a cool element, but I wouldn't really get excited about that all that much. Unbeaten Lake wants Penn State again. Are we just picking the teams at this point that we want revenge on? I like new. I like fresh. I'd like to knock off some of these teams that we haven't played before into those slots. But again, there's so much we don't know about what has or hasn't happened with this decision. So now we've got a trend of everybody saying play teams at particular baseball fields that's, so close to them. So play Northwestern at Wrigley, Boston College at Fenway. Why don't we just play Colorado, who someone just brought up? Why don't we just play in, what is it? The Rockies baseball? Probably wouldn't work that well. There's going to be some overlap there with the end of their season if they're any good. Thomas, good to see you, my friend. Thanks for hanging out. Carrie says Oregon. Oregon, if we hadn't played that single game back in 2019, I would say that one would have a little bit extra novelty factor given where we all met up several years ago for the championship at this point. But yeah, I mean, Alex, it seems to be on point with me here. Notre Dame. I could find myself getting excited about an Oklahoma State matchup too, since they're on the haven't played list. If I've got to pick someone that we have played before and maybe even recently, who would I like to? Georgia Tech. Anybody thought about that yet? They're not horrible, but they're not that good right now. Close proximity to each other. Both teams will travel well. Both teams' engineering schools. Both teams have a history from the past. That would be a lot of fun, I think. Put it in the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Auburn fans will fill that up so quickly, and then you'll have a comparable contingency of Georgia Tech fans only because they're literally right there. Like, there's no excuse for them not to attend because they're right there. I would throw my cap in the Georgia, because look, people are bringing up names like Florida State, Clemson because of some other history, but also proximity and some connected tissue we have with those teams. We've done that a lot recently, I feel like, and Georgia Tech is one of those old traditional rivals I'd like to see again. Michigan might be a good one too. Let's let them cool off a little bit though. Georgia Tech would be great, and then they could have the Rec Tech pajama party. I would demand that everybody that attends as an Auburn fan to a Auburn Georgia Tech game wears pajamas. Like, they do the fan, what you should wear white, wear blue, wear orange. Sometimes they try to stripe. Sometimes they say upper, lower deck, wear this versus that. Wear pajamas. I don't care what colors. Everybody wear appropriate pajamas, folks. But wear pajamas to the game. How awesome would that be? I think even Georgia Tech fans would get a kick out of that because of the history behind that. And think about college game day coming to either Auburn or to Atlanta to Georgia Tech and seeing just thousands of people out there in pajamas and then at the game too. That would be hilarious. Neil points out that they can't fill up their own stadium. Well, we can fix that for them. We'll fill that thing up really, really quickly. Utah, the Terps. A lot of people want some revenge against the Terps. I understand. Utah is on the list of teams that we haven't played yet. That would be a good one. It would be. Virginia. There's some bowl game recency there and some other recency things. I don't know. Some of the ones that we played in the last 2 decades don't really have a lot of for me, other than Georgia Tech, and that was back in 2003. 2003, the last time we played them. So that's over 2 decades ago. Math is hard, which is why I'm not an engineering student at either school. All right, so we can keep talking about that. We can keep discussing that. Take advantage of the phone line if you are wanting to tonight. We'd love to hear from you. Don't be shy. All you got to do is hit the link, and you can call in, talk about anything that you want to with me. Yeah, everything is fair game as long as you can relate it back to the orange and blue, and it's appropriate. I always have to say that these days for some reason. I have fond memories of Tuberville losing to Georgia Tech after being a 15-point fave back in mid-2000s. Lots of tongue-in-cheek. with that one. Carrie says, what teams do y'all think go under the radar that could be really good this year? Auburn, as Neil says, could be one of those. I won't act like I've got a bead on everybody else's seasons. I think it'd be much easier to say what teams that are being talked about a lot right now are going to underwhelm. And I think there's probably going to be several of those. I think Missouri would be one. I think Ole Miss is going to Ole Miss, or should I say Lane Kiffin is going to Lane Kiffin? Maybe. We shall see. That's something. We played Calvin Johnson in 2005. Was it Calvin John? Was it 2005 and 2006 that we played Georgia Tech? I can't remember. But anyway, it was somewhere in that time frame. Neil, yes, lots of hype around Ole Miss this year. And it makes it doubly disappointing that we don't get a chance to play them, because it would be time to play them here. And we love to upset a higher ranked Ole Miss in Jordan here. Thomas says he thinks they'll drop off a little bit. Maybe so. But I'm not ready to dismiss them out of hand. I buy into Ole Miss more than I do Missouri. So and people then begin to ask me, so do you think we're going to win in Missouri this year? I say, look, it's an 11 o'clock game. I'm not superstitious, but I am a little stitious. And sometimes we struggle in 11 o'clock games, especially on the road. So that's a little concerning. If the hype around Missouri is anywhere legitimate, then we could be in trouble. I don't think so, though. I think we'll put up at the very least a good game there. They may win. They might. But I think it'll be at least be putting up a good game there. Bo Jackson to the Royals Hall of Fame. I think we talked a little bit about this last week, Carrie, but it's worth bringing up again. It is a travesty that Bo Jackson took this long to be into the Royals Hall of Fame. Bo Jackson should walk into a room and just be put in the Hall of Fame of wherever he just walked into. If it's the Chess Hall of Fame, he should be there. He's that good. He's that much of the GOAT. Now, we can argue we won't ever know how much of the GOAT he was, because his career was cut all too short. And that's a fair argument. But happy to see that he is, getting some recognition that he deserves, finally. Thomas says the game at Missouri is a must-win for us, but they lost a lot more than we did in the off-season. Thomas, I've heard that talked about a lot, that Missouri is a must-win, and I don't agree with that. It's not that you're wrong by saying that, or anybody's wrong that says that, but I kind of understand where people are coming from. I think they look at that as the linchpin of where the season is heading. Because if you upset, which would be an upset, right? I think we can all agree on that at this moment, based on the speculation of Missouri and Auburn at this point. It's on the road. It's at 11 o'clock. There's some history there. That should be in Missouri's favor, right? I don't think anybody's going to disagree with that based on what we know. So it would be an upset. But I don't necessarily think that it's a must-win for Auburn, because to me, you look at the rest of the schedule, I think they're should be highly thought of, quote unquote, favored to go undefeated at home. I know what I said. I'm not dismissing Texas A&M or Oklahoma or even Arkansas. But I do think it is something that if you sweep your games at home, if you go to Kentucky, get an upset there, and your losses are Alabama, Georgia, and Missouri, I would consider that a must win. But that, I know we're kind of arguing just semantics at this point. Glad you appreciated my office quote. I figured somebody would ask. All right, we're starting to get some calls in. If you want to get in line, we'll bring you in just a little bit. So thank you guys for starting to utilize that link. Alex asks, what are your must wins this year? I think I kind of answered that already. I don't have a must win this year. Now, with that in mind, a must win to me is we have to win this or it is the worst possible scenario. That to me is your must wins are your non-conference games. You must win 3 of your SEC games. Those are your must wins. It's more of a record must win than teams. So if you want to push me to something, I would say Arkansas would be a must win. Vanderbilt would be a must win. And I know that people are going to disagree with my take on what is actually a must win, but that's how I view it. A must win for me is if we don't win this, everything's trash. Whereas some people think a must win is we have to have this because it meets the expectation that I want to have for the team. But that's like I said when Thomas brought up the subject, it's just a perspective point of view on that. So that's where I am with must wins this year. Must win as at least 8 games, bare minimum. There you go. There you go. All right. Well, we had our caller ready, and now his screen has gone black. There he is. There he is. So we'll go ahead and say hello to him. Bring him on in. You guys know him. You love him. He's our good friend, Mr. Kevin. How you doing, sir?
Hey, the next commitment will be Juju Lewis. He's coming to Auburn.
Buddy, I hate to break it to you, but I think the Juju train has sailed. I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but I think he's long gone.
Not yet. Right?
Hey, there's always hope. There is always hope, my friend. But I don't want you to get your hopes up. I think that train has sailed.
Deion Sanders don't need him. Hugh Freeze does.
Well, that may be true. I won't speak for Deion or Hugh Freeze, but that may be true. But sometimes it's not about what they need, what we need. It's about what that guy needs. So
if we don't get him, we get KJ Lacey.
Maybe so. That obviously opens up other opportunities for other players to come in. But I'm not too focused on that right now. We got a good quarterback group right now.
How's Brian Beatty doing?
Last I heard, he was still improving. He got out of the hospital into a rehabilitation facility. I don't think that they've given an update on his GoFundMe page as of late, but everything that I have heard or seen sounds good. So it's a great question because we're always thinking about him and praying for him.
Yes, he's on our prayer list at church.
Absolutely. As well, he should be. They've still got a long road ahead for Mr. Brian Battie. And I said this, I don't know if it was this show last week or the week before that, but I would say my personal wish is if he somehow got better enough to be able to come back in some way to the stadium for one game, just to wave at people. Or whatever that, just to be honored in some way. I don't know what he can do. He's got a lot of stuff to overcome, but that to me would be the best thing that would happen for Brian at this point.
How's Jaquez Hunter doing?
As far as I know, good. He's appearing in a lot of the promotions and stuff for Auburn. So he seems to be having a much more positive offseason. So we're doing good as far as I can tell. He's a senior.
Yeah,
he's a senior, so he's hopefully going to have a big year. Kevin, you broke up. You said Cam Coleman's going to have a big year?
Yeah.
Did you say Cam Coleman's going to have a big? Okay. Yeah, he might. He's got a lot to prove, a lot of expectations put on him, but I'm excited to see him suit up in the orange and blue officially in just a few weeks. Well, several weeks, but
and I can't wait to see Bryce Cain.
Bryce Cain, all the guys, all the freshmen. It's a new look of the wide receiver room, even the transfers in. So it'll be nice to see some fresh faces in there for maybe a new. Exactly. Yep, you got it. You got it.
and Caleb Burton.
What else you got on your mind tonight?
On the special teams, the the punt return and kickoff return teams.
What about them?
Who be our punt returner?
You know, that's a good question. Brian, I think, factored into that a little bit. I think Keontae has also done that a little bit too. But usually special teams is a good opportunity, especially like returners and return team and all that is a good opportunity for some of these freshmen to get in there and get some playing time early. So I don't know how speedy some of our new wide receivers are, but I'd like to see them out there on punt return team or kick return team.
Put Cam Coleman out there.
It may not be the worst idea ever, but I think I want to save that kid for wide receiving only.
Yeah, wide receiver.
You know, I think let's not risk him getting hurt any more than we have to. But who knows? Maybe some of these other guys in the wide receiver room that just want to get out there and show what they can do in any fashion, it might be the space for them.
And I think our defense will get some turnovers this year.
Now, we did a much better job of doing that last year because if you remember the season before, it took us like I think 7 games before we got our first turnover. Last year, Jalen Simpson alone did such a good job with that. So if we can continue to improve / maintain the level of creating turnovers that we did last year, I feel like we'll have a successful season.
And Bruce Pearl and the Auburn Tigers will have a good season too.
It looks like it. They got a good squad back, some new people in that sound very exciting to watch. A lot to be excited for this year, isn't it, Kevin?
And Johnny Harris got that Marquise Daniels daughter.
Marquise Daniels' daughter, yes, is coming to play for Auburn. A lot of people aren't aware of that, but that's it's cool for a lot of reasons because it's Marquise Daniels. But if you know what the Daniels family has been through this year, it'll be extra special in a way to have her now part of an Auburn program.
And I think that Auburn High School running back for the 2026 class, I think he will commit to Auburn.
Well, I don't know anything about him. It's a little too early for me to be focused on 2026, but I will take your word for it, and we'll come back one day. We'll come back one day and say he was right.
I hope we get that Fagans kid.
Yeah, that'd be a nice one because since we got his brother, I think, in, that'd be a nice one to get. Seems like that might help a little bit. We got time for one more question, sir. What you got?
The quarterback.
What about him?
Who do you think be the starter?
There's no question. You know exactly. Go ahead and say his name. You know exactly who it is.
Peyton Thorne.
Exactly. We all need to start getting on the same page. There is no question. Peyton Thorne is the quarterback.
They said, what if Auburn gets hot in the first 5 games? And I said,
hey, they will get hot because it's going to be hot outside.
And I said, just wait. We might go all the way.
Hey, listen, we love you because you are Captain Optimism, and we need a little bit more of that in our lives. So we appreciate you reminding us that we should all be a little bit more like that.
Next Wednesday.
That sounds good. I always expect to hear from you. It's always good to hear from you, buddy. Thank you for calling in.
Hey.
Yes, sir.
Hey, try listening to me on Sunday night.
I will do my best.
Okay, War Eagle.
All right, War Eagle Kevin. Good to hear from Kevin. As always, you guys can call in too. Utilize that link up at the top. All you got to do is hit the link, like literally click on it. It'll take you to a little back screen where you can put your name on and decide if you want your camera on or off. Really, all we need is your voice. Otherwise, it's just a random black screen, nothing going on, and I won't be able to talk to that. So that's all you got to do, just like Kevin did. You don't have to have your camera on like he does, but we appreciate hearing from him. So you guys take advantage of that whenever you'd like to. Okay, let's see here what we've got that was being discussed throughout our conversation. I'm trying to figure out where I left off at. It's way down here at this point. I think I'm about where it. Carrie asked, who is your most favorite cornerback and safety? I don't think about that too much, but what I can tell you is that Austin and I are doing the series in our main podcast on Sunday nights. It's not scheduled, but we do it periodically. The Mount Rushmore of Auburn stuff, and we do different topics. So we've already done the Mount Rushmore of Auburn quarterbacks, Mount Rushmore of Auburn academic buildings, the Mount Rushmore of Auburn basketball guards. We've done a variety of those. And so I think you will find that come up at some point, and maybe I'll be a little bit more informed. Some names that come to the top of my head: cornerbacks and safeties. Carlos Rogers, cornerback. Safety, Junior Rosegreen. I'm going to have a really big bias towards the people that I grew up watching. When I say grew up, when I had, much better hairline. Zach Etheridge is going to be up there as well. Roger McCreary. I think Roger turned out to be one of the best investments that Auburn defensive backs unit has ever had. There's a long list of them. Jalen Simpson turned out to be so versatile and very dynamic and just an all-around athlete. I mean, there's so many people that you could throw into that equation. Let's see here. Junior Rosegreen has to be my favorite safety. Corner is a tough one to pick. Carlos Rogers. I think really you throw him up there and you'll have a good start at the very least. And Roger McCreary too. I kind of like Smoke Monday, but he needed to work on not committing penalties. That is the understatement of the year. Love me some Smoke Monday. So much so that I named my fantasy leagues while he was playing. And every year when I played an NFL fantasy league with some friends and family, I would always do an Auburn name. Well, as of late, I'm not. But when he was here, his name is Smoke Monday. I was Smoke Tuesday. So that's how I rolled with it. Carlton Davis, that's a good one too. Here's the thing. When we talk about defensive backs, when we talk about safeties and cornerbacks, you have got recently, dating back into Coach Malzahn's time, a time where Auburn was putting defensive backs in there into the NFL nonstop. And even if they weren't getting drafted high, like Noah Igbenogany, what did Roger? I think Roger was like 3 or something like that. High on the higher end, they were getting drafted / finding free agent deals and then find starting jobs. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers love themselves some Auburn defensive backs. Their starting corners up until this year were Carlton Davis, and I'm blanking on his name at this point, and that is just sad of me. Somebody help me. Somebody help Daddy. Sorry, that's a joke from my favorite radio show. Somebody will help me think of that in a little bit. Carlton Davis and Jeremiah. No, why do I keep wanting to say Jeremiah? But the Seahawks did it again this year as well. Jameel Dean. Oh, Jameel Dean. Oh, or Jameel, whatever you say. So embarrassed. Corey says Trevon was an awesome corner. I don't know that I would agree that he was an awesome corner. He was a very reliable corner, and I'm glad he found a space to be utilized on the team since he came as a wide receiver. But I will not take away from his importance to this team as a player and as a coach. David Langner, if you want to go back, that's a good one, WT. Shout out to David Langner. David Langner, block the kick. David Langner, he's going to score. You should ask for a list of favorite Auburn player names of all time. One of mine would be Lawyer Tillman. I guess yours would be Smoke Monday. Whoa. Don't assume mine would be Smoke Monday. I do love that name, which is why I had fun with it and called my fantasy team Smoke Tuesday. There have been some great names out there over the years. It's hard to not love what I called the U brothers, Ben Obumanu, Devin Aromashadu, the U brothers. The Rodriguez brothers, Preche Rodriguez and Rodriguez Smith, both wide receivers at the same time. That Rodriguez is a more common name, and they were spelled differently too. One was an S, one was a Z at the end, if I remember correctly. Anyway, there's some good names out there. Tank that's a good one. How can you not love? His name is Cartavius Bigsby, but went by Tank, kind of like Carnell Williams, we call him Cadillac. Alex, thank you for stopping by, my friend. Thanks for being here and hanging out in the chat. Always good to hear from you. Appreciate that, sir. Let's see here. Any other conversation pieces we needed to hit? We're starting to get another call in here, so we'll bring them in just a second. I think we hit most of the other commentaries about. We moved from defensive back greats to best names, and boy, we could go down a rabbit hole right there. All right, let's do it. Let's get our next caller in, and one of our regulars we hear from on Wednesday nights. He's always here to educate us with his notebook or not. There he is. Thomas, what's going on, sir?
Warrior, y'all, how are y'all this evening?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
And I'm doing great. I'm recovering from cheeseburgers at my folks' house for dinner and starting to peel from the sunburn of the 4th of July. I hope everybody had a good one.
I was going to ask, are those cheeseburgers still left over from the 4th of July, or are they just cheeseburgers tonight?
No, it was fresh, baby. We had to eat
fresh,
good.
Baby. I love it. Sounds good. I'll have to come over and get you to cook for me sometime.
Man, stop by Leeds anytime y'all want to. Stop by through Leeds.
I don't frequent down 280 much these days because it just is not in my path. But every once in a while, if you ever give me a little signal that a certain person is visiting, I might find my way through there, just so I could bump into a very, very large individual with a very large personality. Anyway, what's on your mind tonight, sir?
And let's quickly we all want to know. We all know what the schedule is. And we all want to make a prediction of who we're going to win against, who we're going to struggle against. Mm-hmm. And I kind of made my way too early prediction a couple of weeks ago to myself, but I had to go back and look at who's still on those teams from last year and who's there that's going to step up and make an impact. Like Missouri, for an example. I think it's a must-win game for us. It's on the road. It's October the 19th.
That sounds right.
Yeah. So late October, coming towards November, crunch time. It's an away game in the SEC. It's a must-win. All your conference games are, but I thought a little higher of Missouri a couple of weeks ago, and then I did a deep dive on who they lost. They lost their starting running back. They lost both defensive back, both of their cornerbacks. Now, they got some guys that can come in and play, but you lost both your starters. Lost your starting edge rusher. Lost both your defensive tackles. Did I already say running back? Because they lost him. That Schrader kid's gone.
I think, you mentioned him.
Yeah, and then they're starting left tackle, I believe. So they're missing some major pieces from both sides of the ball. And, every team is during the offseason. So before we all jump into I bet we're going to win this, I bet we're not going to win this, we all need to do a deep dive on the other team's rosters and see who they got and who they don't got. Because everybody lost pieces.
So where do you think this hype's coming from? So to your point that they've lost a lot of pieces, where's the Missouri hype coming from? Is it just because I want to remind people that we played in a game that most people were saying whoever lost that game, and it was Missouri and Auburn, their coach was going to be fired. Somehow we pulled it out of our butt. Potato Man did. Thankfully, because it was homecoming. But a lot of people thought Eli Drinkwitz was going to be fired, if not after that game, but the rest of that season. And somehow they became more relevant. So what is it? Just the hype because they haven't been able to talk about Missouri? Because as you pointed out, it lost a ton of pieces. What's the big deal?
I think I wasn't high on the Drinkwitz hire. I didn't really know much about him when he got hired, but I knew I didn't know anything about him. I'm going, you're coming to the SEC, brother. You better buckle up. That first year, he didn't do too bad, But then he turns around a 10-win season, major bowl game, a record-setting performance from a receiver and a running back, and a really good play at quarterback. So I think all that hype comes from look what he did with nothing, and then look how good he was with a short amount of time to turn it around. Now, the transfer portal helps. Some of those guys were already there. You scheme around what your players are able to do. I think that Coach Drinkwitz's style of game planning it does help a lot at a place like Missouri, because it's hard to bring in top tier talent at a place like Missouri. And I'm not going to knock them. I mean, they're not an Ohio State. They're not a Texas. They're not an Auburn. They're not an LSU. They're more akin to the Mississippi States of this league. They're not a top tier program. I'm not saying they can't be, but it's going to take another 2-3 years of consistent play to get there. And so far, Drinkwitz has done a really good job of utilizing the transfer portal and utilizing recruiting. He's not getting 5 5-stars. He's getting 1 5-star that can really bust open a game. Mm-hmm. So I think that's where that hype for Missouri comes from, is look what he's been able to do. We'll give him the benefit of the doubt. He should, if he'd have lost a bunch of games last year, he'd have been run out, but he didn't. So I think that's where a lot of the hype train comes from, specifically for Missouri, is they're on an upward trend. And as long as they continue that, there's no reason to not invest in Missouri.
So let's take that and then apply it to you. And you say it's a must win. Mm-hmm. If it's a must win, how do you feel about that win being secure? Like what do we think about that matchup? 11 o'clock.
70%. 70%
Auburn?
right now. Yeah, absolutely. 70%. I think
bold.
The one thing that could really shut us down is not coming out hot. If we start slow in that game and they start hot, look at the Ole Miss game. What was it last year? And they put up 20-something before we even sniffed the end zone. And then we made a rally, but it wasn't enough. You can't do that on the road. You can't do that on the road unless you're twice the team that the other team is. And we were clearly not.
Yeah.
But with Missouri, I think we can be twice the team that they are, with our new pieces coming in, with a easier system to learn and understand, better communication between the coordinators and the quarterback, and who needs to know what plays running. You're going to call red 67 XZ slot. All of that means something to a different position group. And last year it was recite the 10 commandments upside down while you're chugging water through your left nostril, and nobody knew what was going on. No, I mean, they couldn't get the play in, and nobody knew what was going on, and we saw it. But I think with the simplified calls and the coordinators and the quarterback and your middle linebacker, whoever's coaching the defense, them being able to communicate better and the staff wanting to be here is going to make us that much better. So Missouri, I'm going to go with 70% win for us, even though it's on the road, 11 o'clock game, historically not the best spot. But everybody wants to win, so does Missouri. But I think we want it more, because I think I think our players, and I'll take the fans out of it, I think the players and the coaches and the staff in that building right now feel disrespected by how they're being ranked and treated and talked about.
Yeah,
they know they have in that locker room.
Yep.
They know how much they've improved. We don't. We weren't there at practice. We weren't in the weight room. Little snippets on social media really don't mean that much.
Right.
But I think the team feels absolutely disrespected, and I can guarantee you the coaching staff does.
Absolutely. Let me paint the picture for you, since we're talking about this game a lot. So you've got, I think it's game 7 for both of us at that point. Here's the games leading up to Auburn and Missouri on October 19th. You had that correct. Yeah. They start the year with Murray State. It's a basketball team. I didn't know they had a football team. Buffalo, Boston College, Vanderbilt, Texas A&M, UMass. So do you think they come in undefeated?
I thought Oklahoma was the 5th game.
Oh, do I have? Let me double check. I'm making sure here. They have Oklahoma on the 9th.
Okay.
For Missouri, not us, but I'm talking about Missouri's schedule.
Okay.
I think that's where you got a little bit confused. So I'm talking about Missouri is Murray State, Buffalo, Boston College, Vanderbilt, Texas A&M, UMass, and then Auburn.
They absolutely could be undefeated. If they're going to have a loss, it's going to come from Texas A&M, and it's going to be one of those weird ones where there's 9 interceptions in the game total, and then somebody fumbles towards the end of the game. Like I don't see Texas A&M coming out there and just putting it to them all game. That would have to be a weird one. But if there's going to be a loss, it's going to be A&M.
So it's at Kyle Field.
Yeah. Oh, it's at Kyle Field. And I'm going to go ahead and say loss for Missouri. I don't think they're bringing enough back. Yeah. Like their highly touted guy that they brought in came from Clemson, and that's a train wreck in and of itself. Yeah. I wouldn't want anybody transferring out of Clemson because they can't win unless they have an elite quarterback, which they haven't the last couple of years. And it just, I wouldn't want anybody out of Clemson with the culture that's going on there. No, trash that. Trash that.
So let me paint the other side of this equation. So we just talked about Missouri, and I tend to agree with you that they're most at risk of Texas A&M, especially since it's on the road. So let's just assume they are 6-1. I think that's 5-1 coming in to the matchup with Auburn. Let's look at Auburn, Alabama A&M, Cal, New Mexico, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Georgia, then Missouri. Let's not split hairs. Let's just go ahead and put it out there. I believe this team is capable of doing some magical things in Athens. Probably not going to happen based on what we know right now. Let's just put it out there. So let's just assume that Auburn has one loss as well. You may be at risk from Oklahoma at home. I don't think so at this point. It's going to be a close game. So if Auburn and if Missouri meet up at 5-1 coming into an 11 a.m. kickoff, the ESPN folks, I assume it's going to be on ESPN or something like that, are going to be kicking themselves because you've got 2 one-loss teams that are going to be probably coming off of losses. Texas A&M would be 2 games separated for them, but we'll be coming off potentially a Georgia loss, ready to reestablish themselves in the SEC. To me, that had the makings of a great nighttime matchup. What's the name of
Columbia?
But what's the name of the field? I don't even know. Is it Memorial? Isn't it Memorial Stadium?
Oh, Memorial, something like that.
Everybody's got Memorial.
They got a bunch of rocks out there in the end zone. I don't know.
And they all make their little. It's like, oh, good, they can spell with their little M out there, and they call themselves
Missouri Preschool of Columbia, wherever they play,
wherever it is. That's going to be a ratings miss for the. Not that people are going to watch the 11 o'clock. It's going to be hopefully it'll be a good game regardless of what time it is. But I'm just saying, like, thinking about when I saw the schedule come out, and I saw 11 o'clock, you hate it in general. But
yeah,
I wonder if there's not going to be an opportunity really missed there for some good ratings on a Saturday afternoon or a Saturday evening with a 1-loss 2 Tigers teams. Think about the storylines.
Yeah, I mean, they tell you it's set in stone, but if there's enough money for a TV network, they're going to do whatever they have to do to move it to prime time or at least middle of the day. Like in the landscape of college football and the way the TV deals work, it's set in stone. My rear end, it's not. If they can make a couple more $1 million, they're going to do whatever. They will shovel somebody to the back of the line in a heartbeat. But like you're saying, let's say we're both a 1-loss team coming into this one. Somebody wants to win. I think it's us more. I think we want to win it more. Let's go even crazier and say, let's say something crazy happens. Oklahoma beats us at home. We got 2 losses coming in Columbia. I think we absolutely skull drag them at that point because you're hungry. You got 2 conference losses there's not an East and a West at this point, but you got 2 conference losses. You cannot lose this game. So what do? You buckle up your chin strap, you hit somebody in the mouth, and you keep hitting them until they don't want to play football no more.
Amen, brother. Amen.
That's just it. You want to hit somebody so hard they don't want to play no more.
I like your line of thinking there. If I'm Missouri, I do not want to see a 2-loss Auburn team coming in because it's not like desperation, but that's like, oh, we got to get serious about this because we can't go into a 3-game at that point, essentially losing streak. We cannot have this happen. But if you've got a 1-loss Auburn here, they're licking their wounds. They're wanting to redeem themselves a little bit, but it's not you understand because you've been on the road 2 weeks in a row at that point after being at home forever. So you're going to have some slip-ups. But if Auburn's taking a loss at Oklahoma, a loss with Oklahoma at home, a loss on the road at Athens, Missouri Tiger fans, you better be worried. So you better be hoping for an undefeated Auburn team somehow or a 1-loss Auburn team because I do not want to face that Tiger team that's fighting and clawing for survival in the SEC at that point.
Right. And if Missouri's got 1 loss and we're coming to town, they had a 10-win season last year. Mm-hmm. They had the big name players. They were in the New Year's Bowl. They were all that. We weren't. I can guarantee you we want it more. And I don't want to upset nobody or set anybody's standards too high. I think we're going to thump them.
I love the positivity.
I would consider 14 points on the road a thumping.
Wow.
If 14
heard
points
it here.
Home, that's just a win. But 14 points, if we can beat them by 14 on the road, I'm considering them thumped.
Listen, there's a couple things I didn't expect from you tonight. A, to call for a 70% confidence that we were going to win at Missouri, but a thumping as well being called for at that point. And the fact that you and I just did a deep dive in Missouri this early, that's pretty cool. So this was a fun little topic tonight. I didn't expect that in your repertoire tonight.
If it's football, I'm down for it, man. Let's go.
I love it, sir. I love it. Well, any final thoughts for you as we wind down?
Man, that's it. Everybody do your best to stay cool, even though that's an impossible task in the Southeast. I hope our brethren in Oklahoma, where there's no hills and it's awfully windy, are ready for no wind. And bless their hearts if they ever have to go to Tiger Stadium down in Red Stick.
Bless their little wagon wheel hearts. I don't know. I was trying to think of a phrase that would.
Them little schooners gonna melt.
And then little schooners gonna melt. Thomas, it's always good to hear from you, my friend. Thanks for calling in.
War Eagle, y'all have a good night.
You as well, sir. All right, that was Thomas. Good to hear from him. Good conversation around Missouri. That was good. I really always enjoy our conversations with Thomas, but didn't expect us to do a deep dive on Missouri this soon. So that was good stuff right there. He provides good insights. So we are nearing 9 o'clock, and normally that's as long as we stay on. But if you guys have got other comments or questions, topics that you want to continue to dive into, continue to post them, and we'll utilize those as long as we can and wind down when we feel is appropriate. But with that in mind, two things. If you want to utilize the call-in link, I know a lot of you are here, and it's nerve-wracking to think about utilizing, but give it a shot. We'd love to hear. We hear from so many of our regulars, and that is great. But we want to hear from some of you guys, even if it's just so we can say hello in a War Eagle very quickly. Give it a try. Some of you have been for a while. Kevlar, Dalton, WT, all of you guys. Give it a shot. We'll leave it open for a few more minutes here. Hit the link. Reminders for you before we get to last minute topics and stuff. Next scheduled live streams for us. These are the scheduled things. I want to remind you that tomorrow night, we've got a really fun night. Clint's back, folks. If you don't like him, I'm sorry, but he's here again. We're going to talk about what's new with Auburn uniforms, Auburn football uniforms to be specific this year. This is going to be an 8 p.m. live stream tomorrow. We are recording on a Wednesday. So if you're watching the replay, figure it out accordingly. If you want to go find the replay or get on the live stream, if you catch it before then, 8 p.m. this Thursday, the 11th, that is tomorrow, with Clint Richardson, the Auburn uniforms, the final year of Under Armour football uniforms. There are a few different things, very minor things, but he wants to talk about them and give you guys an opportunity, as always, to talk about Auburn aesthetics, Auburn history topics with him. You guys always do a great job of providing great questions and topics for him to discuss when he's here. So it's another opportunity to hang out with Clint Richardson of the Auburn Uniform Database. This Sunday night, the flagship show, the heart behind what we do here, me and Austin back in the saddle, episode 85, the Auburn Experience, where we talk about Auburn sports, Auburn culture, and Auburn family stuff. Tune into that Sunday at 9 Eastern time. So once again, that is 8 p.m. tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Sunday night, 8 p.m. We will be back again next Wednesday, barring unforeseen circumstances, which will be 2 days before our days at SEC Media Days, which means we'll have plenty to talk about leading up to that point, so you don't want to miss it. Final reminders for you. We do TikTok live streams mostly every weekday. No set time. It's usually somewhere in the lunchtime hours. The best way to keep up with those is to be following there. You can follow us everywhere else. If you want to have a way to help keep the lights on here at E2C Network, we'd like to encourage you to consider coming over to the Conquer Club, which is on patreon.com/E2C Network. You can sign up for $1 a month there, get you into the Discord, some other perks. There are other tiers if you want some other perks and to give more support. You can join what's also, I'm starting to call the Conquer Club Lite, which is people that just don't want to come over to the Patreon and do that thing. But if you want to support us in some way and get the little icons next to your name, you can do that on sites like Facebook and here at YouTube. Some of our fine people, you'll see them with those monikers next to them. And some people do all the things. That's a way you can do that. It's just $1 a month to help you feel encouraged to help us out here and keep the lights on at E2C Network. And some of y'all have watched live stream with the lights. Literally, we need to keep them on. And you have helped do that. It was just a malfunction, but it's still funny to talk about. So let's get into it. Final questions, comments, derogatory rebuttals. I'll talk about some of the things that you guys have been posting. I will close the phone lines for now. If someone was getting in line, I will accept the phone call, but we'll close it down officially right now for those who haven't utilized it yet. WT, I love when the Dustbuster is on. Oh my goodness. That t-shirt's on the TeePublic. I don't know if you ever found it. I thought about moving it over to the, it's called the Spring account that's connected to here on YouTube. I just haven't gotten the time to do it yet. Let's see here. Going back to some comments and questions. Everyone knows all the preseason hype is just looking back at last year and trying to hedge your bets in your prediction. Look at the preseason top 25 every year. It's not wrong. It's not wrong. Kevlar says, I would like to know how you feel about our situation. If for some reason Peyton Thorne goes down, is Hank or Holden going to be able to lead our offense when it counts? Nobody knows. And if anybody tells you that they know, they don't know unless they are on the coaching staff, have direct knowledge of that. My operating principle is I go with what I have known so far. And what I know so far is the depth chart is as follows: Peyton Thorne, Holden Garner, Hank Brown, Walker White. Now, you could make an argument that maybe Walker and Hank kind of find themselves in similar areas, but that's how it is. Not a lot of experience after Peyton Thorne, which is, again, why some of y'all need to wake up to that he's the starting quarterback. How do I feel about the situation? I have faith that these guys are all have different strong points, and I think they can all be effective as quarterbacks. I think Peyton gives us the best opportunity to win this year. I think Holden's got more that he hasn't shown us yet, has the opportunity to show us yet. I like what I would call, and I think others have called, Hank Brown's moxie. I like that a lot. And we don't know a lot about Walker White other than speculation. So there's a lot of question marks there. So I understand the nervousness, and some of that nervousness is because a lot of you don't have faith in Peyton Thorne. Let's be honest. Let's not sugarcoat it. But the coaches have faith in him. So should you. So how do I feel about the quarterback room? I feel about it. Honestly, I'm not, it's not that I'm secure, but I'm not worried. I'm just accepting of what it is. And I'm also hopeful for what the potential could come out of that room, namely Peyton Thorne. Let's see here. Where are we at in comments and question? Once again, you put the Auburn Family Night Show down by calling it the flagship show. First, you don't number them, then you call it the redheaded stepchild. No, it is just as important as that. But if you understand the way content creation works, you kind of have to have something that you call your home base. And that, if you notice on, I don't know, WT, if you're following us on other social media, we put out a lot of clips and stuff from that show a lot because we do cover so much in that particular show. And this is more of a Q&A type of role. So not putting our audience down here at all that take place in Auburn Family Night, but that is more of, I look at the Auburn experience as more of the business side of what we do. This is just about you guys. This is the family side of it. Neil says, anyone know where Linda and Devin are? Haven't seen them here for a while. I don't want to dive into anything with Miss Linda, but I think Miss Linda's had a lot going on. She actually, I think she responded to something on social media just today or yesterday. I have actually connected with her and seen her since she went quiet, Neil. But she's had a lot going on in her life, and I would say that probably factors into it a little bit. But she's still around. I saw her yesterday. Devin was here the other day. We had a live stream on, but she is very busy with a new baby, I believe, and she's still here. I mean, we interact with her on the Discord all the time. So if you want to see some of a lot of our regulars you hear, you see some of the Conquer Club members, they've signed up for that stuff. So you'll see a lot of them there. So consider, if you want to help connect with a group or connect with the group a little bit more, that's a way to do that. Let's see here. Trying to find out where we're at in this. Whoever is the quarterback of the future will be the one playing in garbage time. Depth chart aside, you have to get playing time for the quarterback leading the new recruits. And part of that, to add on to what Thomas is saying here, is by your number ones right now, taking care of business so you can get those guys out on the field. We have not had that for the last several years, where games were secure more often than not. So we haven't had the luxury to put in different quarterbacks. We've had to out of necessity, maybe, but maybe that's going to change this year. So yes, Thomas is right that you got to get these guys some playing time. And that partly is taken care of by your number ones and your number twos, for that matter, getting out there, taking care of business, and keeping this team in a secure place where they can put the backups in to get more experience. So it's a great point to bring up. And I know you're just playing with me as well, WT, but just want to let you know how I view everything that we do here. Everybody that comes here, whether you come to the main show or not. Here's the thing that you will always be able to say. This show was first, or this series. We've been doing live streams of some sort for several years now, but the first thing that became a staple was this. And I've had a lot of people tell me that, you need to stop doing this Wednesday night show. You don't have your biggest crowd show up and stuff like that. And I just can't do that because this show is just easy for me. There's no agenda. Sure, I come with some thoughts and some things to talk about because there are some nights where it's very slow, but it is just what it is. It's the easiest thing that I do all week. Set it up, log in, get ready to talk to you guys. So it will always have a place of honor and isn't going anywhere as far as I know right now. That hasn't changed when we started facing more competition at this hour. There's a lot of other Auburn shows that felt the need to move to the 8 o'clock hour, and our audience has gotten eaten up. But to me, it's not about the numbers. It's not about that type of stuff. It's about the quality and the time we get to spend here. If I can just be like real gushy and heartfelt for a second. Yes, I did call it the main show. It is the main show because it is the business side of the show out here. Thomas we're getting Thomas real itched up for talk football. It'll be here pretty soon. All right. Kevlar says we'll start rounding out. So final topics, questions, and comments here. 2017 was the last time we played pretty good. It's been a long drought, and I think the Auburn family is really hungry for a strong showing this year. Two things. Well, not two things, but let me train of thought. It's okay to be hungry for that, but you also have to be realistic. And I want to stress to people, Auburn dug itself a ginormous hole. It did. A lot of that has to do with Brian Harsin. A lot of that has to do with the decisions that were made that led to Brian Harsin. I won't open that can of worms up tonight, but it's the truth. There is no arguing. There is no denying it at this point. We put ourselves in this decision. And so unfortunately, because of that, a series of unfortunate events, to quote a book title, continue to occur and make the hole deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And so sometimes you found out the foundation was a lot lower than you thought it was when you fall down onto it. So it takes a while to get out of there. You might make little leaps and jumps for ledges and find the light a little bit quicker, but then you might slip back down. I do not think that Auburn is ready this year to make some sort of large jump forward. But what I do think they are very well poised for is improvements to increase their win total, to be more competitive, and maybe a few surprises along the way. Year 3 is the year that I would hope for some larger jumps, but even then, I'm going to still give the benefit of the doubt of that. Year 4, where you have had 4 recruiting cycles in, is where the rubber meets the road and where you have to start saying your proof of concept must take shape this year. We talked about must wins earlier with Thomas. That is the must wins. Your proof of concept needs to be made in year 4, like as year 4 plays out, meaning the full year, not let's fire them mid-season just because we're getting antsy. But just a way to think about it. Everybody's very itching, as we've used the word here. It's making me itch now, wanting to see what we know Auburn is capable of. And I understand that, but let's also put some context on it as well. Let's see here. Where are we at on the I lost my place for a second. There we go. Carrie says, just being in the SEC, we dug ourselves a hole because of our reputation for being a good conference. And Auburn is one of the worst teams in a good conference. So, Carrie, you took a little bit of I wouldn't agree with that. We are not one of the worst teams. That is reserved for Vanderbilt. That is reserved for typically Kentucky, but not these days. When you have a coach like Mark Stoops, who I have a lot of respect for, even though he can't seem to get him over the hump. Arkansas right now used to be Missouri, but Auburn's not one of the worst teams in a good conference. They are right now, I would say, to be fair, they find themselves on the back end of the middle of the pack, the back end of the middle of the pack. So that's how I would view them. And it is hard when you're in the SEC. If you dig yourself a hole, everybody else is piling on top of you, as you kind of said that. Recruiting definitely also hurt. I think Jarquez is the only player left from the 2020. I believe you're 100% correct on that. Unbeaten Lake. I wouldn't disagree with that at all. I think that's been reported. Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anybody else. He's the last one from that class. Now, again, the recruiting is bad in of itself. But we wouldn't have been there if we didn't make another decision to get us to that point. And that can't be ignored. WT says he joined the Patreon. Love the channel and showing support. Thank you, WT. I'll go look on there a little bit later, help you get you set up. Make sure you, when you go through the Patreon, there should be like a way to access the Discord and get in there. It's a little, type, messaging app. And you'll be in I think I got the email. Looks like you're in. I'll look and see what level you're at and all that stuff, but you'll have access to everything. So I'll send you an email too, but thank you for your show of support, sir. Let's see here. Neil says AU is one of the 5 SEC schools that have won championships in the last 15 years. Not sure how I would say Auburn's the worst. And he kind of said that was a little bit of an overstep there. I think he's talking more about right now. And you may have a case there. I have a lifetime pass on the Gus bus. I do. And there's a lot of reasons that I am proud to have that lifetime pass on the Gus bus, mainly because I know that was not the right decision in 2020. It may have been the right decision in 2021. We'll never know. And I won't say that it couldn't be that, but it was not the right decision in 2020. We wouldn't be where we are if that was the case. And boy, how about this? Sorry, he opened up the can of worms. I knew we were going to pay for that decision. I didn't think we were going to pay this bad for it. It was worse than I could have thought. You can go back. One of the first, I don't know if it's one of the first, but early on, you'll go find the live streams. I was pretty hot that day. And probably said a few things I shouldn't. See, that's the beauty and danger of doing what I do is everything is out there. And because I do most of this stuff with my face in front of it, there is no hiding from it whatsoever. All right. I said a couple more questions here, but we're getting some good topics. So let me just roll through them as fast as possible. I know basketball's a long way off, but I'm excited for that as well. We have some major pieces again. You should be excited for it, Kevlar. I think it's going to be fun. As WT says, it's going to be lit. Cannot wait for the season. I think Auburn is going to be well poised for a very fun athletic calendar year. Volleyball, this is the Auburn experience. We're going to take the full gamut here. I believe that volleyball is going to continue to rise as they have been doing. I know some of y'all don't even know we have a cross-country team, but and that's part of the track and field team, given how that's improving, I think that's going to improve too. Soccer always tends to be very competitive. They've had surprisingly, the last 2 seasons, I think, haven't been all that great, but I think they're due for a bounce back. Football is going to continue trending in a positive direction, I believe. Women's basketball, we know, is trending in a positive direction. Men's basketball is maintaining. Gymnastics has continued to be strong. Equestrian just won an SEC title and probably will continue to be that as well. We know how strong men's golf is. Women's golf wasn't too far behind them. And the tennis teams, they were pretty dang good as well. And track and field with the men's squad was 2 points away from winning a national title. Most people aren't aware of that. 2 points. We almost had another national title this year in men's track and field. Swimming and diving is also continuing to rise up from some lower places they've been rather than historically. I think I got everybody in there. Golf, tennis, swimming, diving. I think I got them all in there. I hope I didn't. I think it's going to be a good year, folks. Get excited. Enjoy the summer. Enjoy the peace that you have right now. But it is going to be a fun year. All right. I'm getting out of here, folks. Thank you so much for hanging out. Smash that like button on the way out. Subscribe if you're not. Check out the links in the description. All those different things. Tomorrow night, 8 p.m. with Clint Richardson. Be here or be square. You guys are the best little family within the Auburn family. Till I talk to you again. War Eagle.